Support your locals, starting with Space Smoke Shop, located on 125 East Pennington Street, Tucson, Arizona.
Space Smoke Shop features local glass, cheap tobacco, and any drink you can think of. We're also a hookah lounge and a venue. Like us on Facebook to keep up with shows, deals, and products.
Don't forget, every second and fourth Tuesday is Punk Rock Tuesday at Space Smoke Shop, 125 East Pennington Street, located in downtown Tucson, Arizona. And be sure to tell them that you heard about them on the GMR Podcast.
GMR. You're listening to the GMR Podcast. You can hear my show on Stitcher. Stitcher is radio on demand. Download the free app today. Listen anytime, anywhere.
Create custom playlists. Rate and review my show on Stitcher. And over 4 million car dashboards.
On demand and on the go. No downloading, no syncing, no wasted memory. Stream your favorite podcasts. Don't have Stitcher? Download it free today at Stitcher.com or in the App Store.
GMR.
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 GMR. Wow.
GMR.
There's a Dorito on the floor.
There's a Dorito on the floor.
That's a good way to start as any.
That's the name of the episode.
Non sequiturs where we just jump in and feel like the conversation's already
Great
going
pitch
on.
up the Dorito.
It has been.
There's a Dorito on the floor.
Not anymore.
It's GMR Podcast, show 75.
Fuck. It's crazy, man.
I'm Marty Catola, as always.
Gene Mott.
And I'm Ray Daniel. And I'm
Ray's
back.
here. Wow.
It's crazy. We had to come all the way to Phoenix to get him.
Get to make a podcast with you guys, so I'm honored.
We're at Phoenix ComiCon 2014 right now. And we do have special guests drinking beverage off to the side.
That would be me, Clif Campbell.
First appearance, took 75 shows.
We still got Gatorade.
We still have
Gatorade.
No,
Might
I got
I add the infamous
All
Clif
right.
Campbell.
The infamous.
The infamous
Clif Campbell drank the last Gatorade.
That's why I'm infamous.
It's a fruit punch, though, right? Mm-hmm. I hate fruit punch, so that's good. It worked out for me.
Remember when Gatorade was just
Orange or yellow.
Gatorade?
Yeah.
Wasn't the original
flavors.
Gatorade lemon lime?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the best Gatorade myself. Although I did have a thing for melon for a while.
Melon.
Oh,
Yeah.
I liked lemon ice when they made
I went
that.
to
Well, Paul had liked the cucumber one.
Oh, I
That's
fuck
That's
yeah.
disgusting.
I had.
Yeah,
I
Paul
got that
loved
the other
that.
That's a
day.
Japanese
What is he,
thing.
British?
It's gross.
British do that now, too.
Cucumber and lime.
Oh.
I was going to do something on a podcast a few weeks ago about
Cooking
that.
show?
No, my
Cooking shows get
review
good
of the
ratings.
lemon lime.
Well, remember we saw
Gatorade.
in Japan they have cucumber Pepsi?
Yes, they did for a while.
Well, it's like the Fanta thing, where, there's black currant Fanta and all these crazy different
So
flavors of
many.
Fanta, across the country, or across the world, I mean.
And then how about the Kit Kat with wasabi sauce?
Ew.
Sold
What?
in Japan.
Wikipedia in the middle of the night, you learn strange things.
Down the rabbit hole.
So I was thinking when I was in the bathroom, it would be funny if we did a podcast and we didn't talk about Comic-Con at all. Like
Far we have.
We built it up for
Talking about Gatorade and Kit Kats.
6 months, like 18 months, 18
Well,
weeks to
that's right, we
Comic-Con,
count down
19.
and then we just don't even
And then
talk.
we're like, psh, all right, so let's talk about Gatorade for 6 hours.
Do you know why it's called Gatorade?
Because the Florida team,
There you go.
the Gators.
The Gators.
Well, I have a preference for Powerade.
All the sport, I remember that.
It was
vaguely.
carbonated Gatorade.
Carbonated Gatorade, that didn't work.
I don't remember that at all.
I do.
How
that.
does your body absorb that quickly?
Oh, but that was so good. It was so good.
Tucson seems to be a testing ground for a lot of weird.
I think we are.
Foods.
That's Butterfinger milk. That's what that was.
Yeah.
Well-
take it down there to the south next to the border. I mean, a few babies born with extra heads, nobody's going to say anything.
Well, Tucson was in the running for the Amazon for that drone program. Where you order something on Amazon and
Oh,
it
and it cuts your head
but
off
Tucson
as it
didn't make the
delivers
cut.
the
Tucson didn't make the cut.
package.
That's awesome. I can't believe
That would have been awesome, man.
Flies in the window, flies out.
Flies off.
Took my child with you. I'm suing you, Amazon.
Took it as payment.
There's a stork.
You know, it was
There's a
$14.95
stork.
for shipping. We'll
There's a
return the
drone.
child.
And then parents will tell their kid that the drone brings the babies instead of the stork.
Or the drone will become the new boogeyman. You know, better
Just-
watch it. I'll have UPS send the drone to take you away.
Oh, that's a good science fiction story
You
there.
know somebody's going to tell their kid that.
Oh yeah.
Threats of the 21st century.
Not your owner. The drone.
The drones.
Don't make me call Amazon.
No, don't make me call it Raytheon.
What are you doing? I'm getting on UPS's website right now. No, I'm sorry.
Oh man.
So, Jay and Silent Bob tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Brian Posehn tonight.
Well, I
We're
saw
actually
Silent-
going to see live podcasts after this.
Edumacation. We're covering the whole Kevin Smith live podcast tonight.
Pretty much.
Yep, yeah.
You've never heard Edumacation, right?
I think I may have heard one episode. Wasn't my cup of tea.
It's basically Kevin Smith gets super baked, and the other guy tries to talk about
It's
science.
totally different than every other Kevin Smith
Well,
episode.
this one,
You mean the sober ones?
This
or
one,
those
every
ones?
time the other dude says anything, he just goes off for fucking 20 minutes. So the show, if he didn't do that, would take about 15 minutes, you know? Instead, they stretch it to about an hour and a half. It's like Mythbusters. They were questioning whether secondhand, you could get secondhand high. So Andy McElfresh took a drug test and found that indeed he was secondhand high or had enough in his system to turn up positive.
Wow.
And there's going to be a live experiment tonight. I don't know what that's going to be.
A live experiment.
Yeah, the first live show they did, they wanted Jason Mewes to eat a pound of sugar, but they realized that maybe that could hurt him.
Right.
So they had
That's
tried
the
to make
point
him
where-
eat a pound of those little white donuts
Oh.
because he loves those donuts, but he found himself unable to do it because he couldn't drink any milk or anything with it because the idea was if you eat a pound of food, will you gain a pound? And in fact, he had not gained a pound. I don't think he could actually finish the pounder, but so it was a pretty fucked experiment actually.
So they have the skinny dude eat a pound of food and the fat guy talk about it, rather than have the fat guy eat it and the skinny guy talk about it.
Yeah.
Because you got to wonder if Smith would have had a problem getting through a pound of donuts. I have to say, probably the probability of him succeeding is much higher.
If I remember correctly, I remember Kevin Smith said that he's my bitch. Jason Mewes is my bitch and I'm his pimp.
Here, bitch, eat a pound of white donuts.
I
Bought
mean,
them at CVS.
their best podcasts are the drugstores. So
Oh, also, I walked about a mile yesterday, according to my pedometer. Oh, my feet still fucking hurt, and my knees are fucking shot. Took me like an hour or so just to fucking be able to fall asleep because my fucking knees were aching too much. And I didn't want to ask. I forgot to ask Marty if I could have a Tylenol.
That would have
before.
kept you up.
Well, they got the
Yeah, they got caffeine in them.
well, fuck.
That's probably why you took so long to fall asleep.
Plus, I drank about 16 Mountain
We
Mountain
do seem
Dews.
to have a lot of Mountain Dew.
I just slammed one right now because I'm fucking
think
pretty burnt.
I think the starting count was 72 cans
You know what?
for 4 people in 3 days.
well, here's the thing. I'm not a really big Mountain Dew person, but I bought it for all of us, thinking, okay, caffeine rush.
And then last Friday, Gina and I did Costco runs, so
And I did a Safeway run.
we bought the same stuff.
We bought a
Kind of
case and a half of Mountain Dew alone, and
green Mountain Dew.
maybe a case of Coca-Cola. Did you bring the Coca-Cola?
Yes.
And I went Mountain Dew crazy. I got Baja and Throwback and
Baja in a can.
Well, at least I was excited about the idea of Baja when you're like Taco Bell and you get it once in a while. It's like a special treat,
The lime goes with
but
the food.
it's not that great.
I don't recommend it first thing in the morning.
Oh,
No.
It's not a wake up beverage.
that's why I drink coffee.
I went to Circle K the other day. I don't know if you guys have Circle
Believe me,
Ks.
I have tried to do caffeine wake up
What's your
with soda
convenience
cans.
store
Smart
choice?
water.
Right now, it's a lot of
Oh, smart drink.
on cues. We get a lot of on cue expresses, which are these. They go in and basically knock out the 7-Eleven, and then they knock out the business next to it and build this massive it's the biggest freaking gas station you've ever seen. There's like 12 pumps, and then a freaking the store itself is just, they got like frozen yogurt section with 18 different kinds of frozen yogurt and toppings, and then they got 18,000 feet of gleaming, refrigerator cases, and
Sounds like QT.
it's just ridiculous. And then they've got, there's a bank of rollers with every kind of hot dog and taquito rolling for you to.
That does sound like the QT.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Probably kind of a similar business model.
Similar concept.
I remember when you told me about Redbox, and you said these things are going to take over everything, and we didn't have any out
I told you.
yet.
Yeah, I was there, at that point. I was looking to buy a couple. I just could not get into the investment early enough. I couldn't get to the people.
And how much would that run for one machine?
I don't. If I remember correctly, at the time it was like $8 to $10 grand for a machine.
One machine?
And then you got to stock it with video.
Yeah, you do the stock.
Yeah, you do stock.
I've seen people do that. I had
Just put our movies in there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the Pondo Red Box.
Yeah, you make some money off that. You get your money back.
Well, it kind of died down, the Redbox frenzy.
Well, but it was. I knew it was going to be enough to kill Blockbuster.
Oh.
Blockbuster was just on the cusp and was ready to go down, and Redbox is.
And that would get tipped it over.
But the unfortunate thing is, it took down a lot of the independent guys too, who had. Like there was a guy in my hometown who had a really excellent movie selection, DVD selection.
Well, that was a good
Now
store.
he didn't have 5 copies of everything, so every now and then you'd have to go in and look for it and see if it was on the shelf. But if it was there, you could get some really decent stuff.
And that's a rare pastime, going into a store and grabbing a video, because most kids nowadays are like,
You ran it till the bitter end at your Blockbuster.
oh yeah, until eventually they went away. But that's how I got.
Ray, we're not renting you any more movies. We're closed.
Knew everybody on a
Still
name
got
basis.
cost of videos in town.
Well, we have a little chain that survived called Family Video, and apparently they've got about 600 to 800 stores nationwide. They're mainly Midwest. We've got 3 of them in town, and they're pretty good. I mean, they're basically throwing coupons at you to get you to come in and rent movies. Here's $2 off on Thursdays, and your first month is half off of every rental because you're a new member. And I mean,
They're a dying breed. Video,
but they have all the new Blu-rays and all that thing. But I mean, they've cornered the market. That's it. If you want to go get a movie in town and you don't want to go to Redbox, you're going to Family Video. That's it. There's nowhere else to get one. I've seen a couple. Have you guys seen the Blockbuster machines?
Yes,
Couple.
Dude, they're a piece of crap.
Yeah.
They're a piece of crap. The late fees are awful. Sometimes they won't accept your DVD. You have to go to another machine. And it's horrible. It's worse than Redbox. Redbox I never had a problem with, but the Blockbuster kiosk I always had a problem with it. They charged me $4 on my overdraft. And I'm like, why are you charging me? Like, it was such a mess. It was such a mess.
I saw my first Thanos. He looked all right, I guess.
Yeah.
He had his little Infinity Gauntlet on.
It's a hard costume to pull off, I think.
Was it Josh Brolin himself?
I've seen more
Thanos.
skinny Deadpools.
Oh,
I've
fuck
seen
yeah.
so many
Deadpools are
100-pound
back this year.
Deadpools, man.
It's basically Green Man, the red suit.
I saw there was there's one place where they're just selling the hoods, so.
Well, I saw one Spider-Man holding a sign saying, "Down with Wolverine."
No, I saw that. It reminds me of when you gave out those Space Chimps masks, and everybody in the mall was wearing Space Chimps masks, and they didn't like that.
No,
because
there's 100 kids running around the mall wearing monkey masks, walking into stores, and these stores think they're
like
going to.
Oh my God!
These stores think they're going to get robbed or something. And security,
I would have.
Security came over and threw a fit and was like, "Stop passing those masks out!" And I'm just like, "What? Passing what masks out? Just giving them out right in front of him. Here you go, kid. Take this."
Oh,
promotional item.
Yeah. Well, what else? I had like 1,000 of them. And they were just sitting in a box, and nobody came to see Space Chimps.
And yet I've
So
seen
what
no
am I supposed to
Space
do with
Chimps
them?
today.
Pass them out.
That's funny, Clue.
You think my time would be better after all these 75 episodes?
75. We only did 79 new shows. We're about to eclipse that.
That's right. Those were hellish.
They could be.
They were so fucking long to do.
Yeah.
We went into detail about how we ended up playing Old Maid on the air last week.
The card game?
We were doing Texas Hold'em tournaments before that shit was even on TV.
Old Maid Hold'em.
Well, I like that Texas Hold'em zombie version of doing downstairs.
I think it would be cool to do that.
Zombie version.
It's very Big Bang Theory.
I forgot.
Let's talk about the line for Bruce Campbell.
That's why I'm here. That's what I was.
Yeah. Let's talk about the line for Bruce Campbell.
We
'cause that
would
was
be at
freaking
Nathan
ridiculous.
Fillion right now, but it is so insanely full.
At 3, what was it? At 2:30 when they're letting the line in for Bruce Campbell, which there was no way you were going to get in.
Nope.
They said if you're waiting for Nathan Fillion, just line up now. And Nathan Fillion's 2 hours away.
And this is the gigantic ballroom.
Like
It's
a
huge.
5,000
Massive,
seater, huh?
massive
Biggest place
ballroom.
in the house.
They say in San Diego, if you want to get in those rooms, you got to just get there 8 hours
gotta
for
camp
just
out.
first thing in the morning.
That's what this is turning into.
Yeah.
Dragon Con would be the same
Yeah, and I
way.
have no interest in. I mean, I like actors and I'm big into certain stuff, but I'm not sitting for 6 hours.
Yeah, I'd rather just go get in an autograph line and you can
Well,
watch
I'd
the
rather
panel on YouTube later. Right?
no
Exactly.
shit.
Thank you, YouTube.
I would just rather hang than spend 8 hours waiting for somebody.
Well, I'd rather honestly walk that exhibition floor and just check out everybody's costumes. And there's some of the people here have really gone to the limit to really make their costumes
Yeah.
amazing. There are some amazing costumes here, and then there's some costumes that are really terrible.
Of course.
But you know what? We got to give them credit.
Yeah.
They're showing up here. They're getting their geek on. So
Yeah, the costume contest we'll never be able to get into either. There'll be
Yeah, no.
10.
No.
Because we couldn't even get into
I did
those
see the
last
girl
year.
that Wallowitz and Kuthapali had sex with, the 200-pound Sailor Moon.
Did you?
I did see her. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I did see her.
And no dice.
No dice. That's the interesting thing. I could not find an exhibitor on the floor that sold polyhedrons of any kind.
Yep.
Not a one.
Are you going to go down and talk to these people down on the second floor?
I'm not sure. I don't think so because I didn't see any D&D being played. I saw Pathfinder being played, but I don't
know what Pathfinder is.
It's a kind of a version of D&D, but I don't play it.
anymore, or did you play?
Never.
You said next year you were going to bring your books.
Yeah, I think next year I'm just going to bring my books and I'll sit down at one of those tables and just pull eight or nine people in and just twist them and go. This is what role playing really is. I don't know what you guys are doing, but let me show you.
It's old school.
Mm-hmm.
Thaco.
Their only school is the old school.
What's your Thaco?
What's your Thaco?
To hit armor class 0.
Thaco.
Thaco. That was what we did before the D20 system.
Yeah, which they really. Yeah. So
That's a podcast
we won't
all
that's a podcast all in of itself, which that explains to you why we're at ComiCon.
Exactly.
The fact that we would even know to have an argument about that.
We got the correct room this year.
Yeah.
Balcony's lovely.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful view.
Cliff figured out how to inflate the air mattress last night. in a
Very
rather
intelligent,
inventive
Cliff.
way.
Very
Little
smart.
MacGyvering with a water bottle and a blow dryer, and we blew that air mattress up faster than you.
Be careful trying this yourself. You could melt the thing.
It was a Richard Dean Anderson moment.
It was, and he was here. We didn't even see him. Like
We-
last year,
we
Babylon
don't-
5.
We don't
didn't
need to see
any
Bruce
of it.
Campbell and Nathan Fillion. We had him last night. We have MacGyver here in the hotel room.
Nathan Fillion. That's how I'm going to say his name from here on out. Nathan Fillion.
And we had an impromptu fireworks show last night.
Yeah, that was 10, 15 minutes of just successive fireworks over and over again.
And no glitches, no in between stops.
No A mountain.
Yeah, no intermissions.
Just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
Boom, boom, boom.
constant.
Boom, 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 boom for 15 minutes.
Nice look, fucking big, right over here, the baseball field, I think.
Now, last night when I was seeing the fireworks, it reminded me of me and Marty were at Coachella, and we were right in the middle of all the 5 stage. And remember the fireworks were going on.
Oh, the Killers had just
And the
finished,
Killers were
and then
playing,
boom, they set
and-
off all those
and,
fireworks. They were
the
about as
Peaches
impressive as those.
was playing, and Amy Winehouse, and it was just a total circus atmosphere.
And now it's time for the after show. And we're back. It's the after show. Isn't it amazing how that happens? That 25 minutes just freaking flies.
Crazy.
Really?
And now this is the part where we wrap up everything we talked about. We just talked about, or we don't have to. We can keep babbling.
There
are no rules
Yeah,
here.
we talked about how crowded it is at Comic-Con. It's freaking crowded.
Yeah, I was finding shortcuts, but the problem with that is you lose everybody.
Yeah.
And
Is
not
that what
only
you were
that,
doing?
The people in the yellow shirts like, no, you can't go into that door.
Getting all ninja about it.
Yeah, I would go just now. Ray would go this way on this side of the crowd, and I would go this way. And Ray's like stops and he's looking for me, and I'm just over here going.
It's that crowded. It's almost impossible to find somebody if you step more than 3 or 4 feet away from
We need a giant tether.
Yeah.
Or put balloons.
Whatever happened to our walkie-talkie idea?
Yeah.
How about that? If we had balloons on our shirts,
There you go.
Just a big helium balloon
Part
tied
of
to
the
your collar.
cosplay. And we can just float over everyone.
Oh, how about the Halloween costume that when we were kids that had that ball balloon?
Oh my god, I remember that.
You remember?
Blow up the head.
And people would walk around with it. You know what I'm talking about? Pink or blue
I'll
or
see
black
those down there. I'm gonna ask if I can find one.
or red.
I'd wear that all weekend.
I would too, dude.
You'll be like, what the fuck is that? I'd be like, it's the last one in existence.
Or better
70s
yet,
Halloween costume saved
finding
from the
that
landfill.
Halloween costume that used to come in a pink box.
Oh yeah, with the little rubber band behind
Yes.
the plastic face.
Right.
Oh, the pink box.
Yeah, dude.
You
Put
pick
on
it up, you pick up the box, and it gets an apron and a mask. And that's all it was.
Colored pants.
And then you can tie it
And
around.
just the picture of
Darth Vader, and you have Darth Vader. And
Centipede, the video game.
I was so pissed at my mom for my when I was 6 years old. She got me the Archie in that.
Oh, nice.
Archie, and I was like, Archie, and even at 6, I was like, who the fuck wears Archie? Really? Yeah, exactly.
I went as Beretta one time, like that. I liked Beretta. It was cool. Had his face on the front of it.
Those were flame retardant.
Yes,
They
were.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they smelled like vinyl.
Especially 2 hours after wearing the mask.
Oh.
You'll be collecting sweat and you'll be like, ooh.
Rubber band cutting into your
That mask would wear.
the little
Mouthpiece
thing.
would wear. Nice. I guess that's it. That's all I have to say about costumes.
That's fucking funny. I haven't seen anybody wearing one of those costumes out there. Though.
Nah.
I'd be like, I got to get a picture of that.
Well, hopefully next year we'll be harmful.
And I'll be Oprah. Because that's Harpo spelled backwards.
If that's the fact, if you're coming as Oprah, I'm definitely coming back next year. I'm not missing that.
Because nobody else is doing it.
Everybody wins!
Gotta show these people. Look under your chairs, everybody.
Everybody in the auditorium looking under their chairs.
OprahCon.
Oh, man. Then also as a Sherpa from Entourage, the Val Kilmer character.
The reason it's so hot is because usually Comic-Con Phoenix is 2 weeks early. And
Earlier.
it's a little cooler on Memorial Day weekend.
But Johnny Drama, he's like, I'm going to Phoenix
I'm going to Phoenix Comic-Con.
I'm going to Phoenix Comic-Con.
And that episode's like 8 years old. Phoenix Comic-Con was still new then. He was talking about the Comic-Con of now. Which means Entourage is set about a decade in the future.
Really, huh?
There you go. That's what it means.
They're doing pickups on the movie right now.
Are they?
Next summer coming out.
Viking Quest?
Viking Quest! We're yelling at in the crowd right now. I saw some guy wearing like Viking horns and I yelled it at him, but he didn't pay attention.
Because he didn't understand.
I know.
Because
But he needs to understand.
Nobody watches
Marty,
Entourage.
you're going to have to
Not
videotape me, videotape me saying, Victory!
Comic-Con episode.
I'm going to do Victory at the exhibition hall real loud and you have to videotape me.
What was his character's name? What was Johnny Drama's character?
Tovar?
Yeah, where was Tovar born? And he didn't know because Turtle Game.
Oh, yes!
His fans were all like, "What? How can you not know where you were born?" Northumbria.
I didn't see nobody dressed as Turtle from Entourage.
No, we have not seen that today. Yet.
The best one I saw was the husband and wife who dressed up as the two people from Beetlejuice. The husband
that
and wife
was
from
good.
Beetlejuice.
Oh, yeah.
And they had he had the big long face, and she had the big long face. That was really well done.
And there's also a couple who are doing the wedding dress, and the groom were the zombies.
Yeah, they look
But
pretty
they look
good.
very
Yeah.
well done.
Oh,
and
we
they're
saw that
acting the
zombie walk we saw last night where most of the people were just walking, no zombies.
Yeah, I thought you had to be a zombie to be in the zombie walk, but apparently not.
No.
But those people really were.
I think it's a charity thing, so they just put any, if you want to do it. But still, it almost comes off as like, what? If you're gonna do it, put some latex on your face now. Duncan would tell them all how this is how you put the zombie makeup on.
Duncan.
Latex on everybody's face.
Yeah, you're 15 years too late, outdated.
That's one of the things.
He was ahead of himself.
That's one of the things I've noticed about Comic-Con is while it's inclusive, it's almost too inclusive. Where they're like, oh, you want to be a zombie, but you don't have anything? Yeah, go ahead. You're a zombie now.
These are.
Oh yeah, here's a little prosthetic.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Here you go.
No,
You're dangling
clap it
out
on and
I got that line.
here's zombies. And to think, me and Marty had the original Comic-Con in junior high.
Yeah, they all thought we were crazy. You gotta stop watching those zombie movies.
You gotta stop writing zombie
We
stories.
should have kept writing zombie stories. Is what the moral of that story is.
And the moral of the story is, don't listen to your teacher.
And the Baja Blast is empty, so I guess that means we're done.
Common Core math.
GMR.
Jima. Hey, thanks guys, this is Ray. Call me crazy.
Next week will be more of a recap, or we might talk about something completely different. Who knows?
Probably should be more well rested by then. I feel fucking. I woke up at 8. I don't know. I woke up at 7:30. I thought Marty was taking a shower, and I'm like, "Hey, what? You got up pretty early this morning?" And he's like, "No."
Nope.
And he
Just
went
used the
straight back.
bathroom, went right back
You
to
didn't even
sleep.
say that. You just said no. And just got right back to bed. And I was like, "Okay." Maybe I should try to go back to sleep, but that didn't work. And I was like, "Fuck, okay."
I still managed to get like 9 hours or so.
Well, I'm glad.
Well, I actually slept in.
Yeah.
I woke up at 7:30 and I slept in. I hate sleeping in like that.
The fascinating sleeping habits of your podcasting hosts.
That's right.
What will you learn next time?
Because last Comic-Con I was up at 5 a.m. and I walked like 2 miles around downtown with a cup of coffee and a pack of cigarettes, waiting for
True.
that to wake up.
For more on that, listen to last year's episode.
That's right.
Thanks for listening to the GMR Podcast, show 75. Cliff did find dice at the Comic-Con eventually. He did find some dice. It took a bit of hunting around the exhibition floor, but victory was achieved. Now stay tuned for the Zhon the Alien Interviews, Making Quality Film on a Tiny Budget panel from early Saturday morning, June 7th, 2014, at Phoenix ComiCon.
First of all, I want to thank you all for coming to Phoenix ComiCon 2014. It's going to be a great day of programming, great day of panels, all sorts of things. You're going to hear this spiel at every panel you go to, so kind of get used to it. So first of all, you can't stand on the walls. The fire marshal is very, very, so you have to sit down, you can't stand on the walls. Second of all, cell phones. Everybody needs cell phone rings. We don't want to hear them during the presentation. So if you can please mute your cell phones, that would be terrific. This panel is on Zhon, the Alien Interviews. Zhon the Alien Interviews is a locally produced web series about a man who claims to be an alien trapped on Earth for thousands of years. How being trapped changes him and his influence on our world. Phoenix ComiCon is happy to have the creative team here today. There's a couple more people who will be coming with slideshow and presentation. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the presentation and then have questions at the end. First, a show of hands. How many have seen any episode on the web?
Hey, sweet.
All right. So most of you kind of know what's going on here already. Let me introduce our panelists. On the far end is Peter Goritz. He is a composer and music director. Peter has been composing music for film for over 14 years and has worked in the music industry since 1990. He has composed and scored music for many films and commercial projects and has toured the United States as a musician. Next to him is Ginger Ferguson. She caters for small movie sets, including Zhon, and also does props and costuming work. Ginger is the caterer for Pulp Gamer Media, the company that does the Bob and Angus show for Mayfair Games, now in its 9th season. On this side of the table is Marty Chitola and Clif Campbell. Marty and Clif? Marty and Clif. Okay.
Or Cliff. Sometimes we can.
Sometimes Clif and Marty?
Totally.
Okay. They're from Pondo Enterprises, and they have written and produced several feature films, including The Comic Book Diaries, Writing Frenzy, and of course, Zhon, The Alien Interviews. Tyrell Good over there, working the tech as a good co-director, frequently has to do. He also worked on a lot of the editing on the movie. And then the two executive producers and stars of the show, Robert Linden. He played Zhon, full name Zhon Jacob Jingleheimer-Schmidt in the show, and came up with the concept and co-executive produced the project. He is also a movie fight choreographer who leads a movie fight team called Lights Out Cinema Fight Choreography. He's also a stand-up comedian. He choreographed the exciting fight scenes for the show. And then backstage here, in the suit, Eric Schumacher. He's going to be leading the panel today, and he played the role of Agent Killjoy in Zhon, was co-executive producer for the project. He was also the showrunner, on-set producer for most of the series. Second unit director, handled the legal issues as well as marketing for the show. Eric is a managing partner in Picture Arizona LLC, a company based out of southern Arizona that is working to boost the Arizona film industry and create economic prosperity through entertainment industry. He's also a noted actor and manager of K-Base and Farafina Musici. Is that right?
K-Boss and Farafina Music, yeah, close enough.
Okay, a popular African reggae pop band. So, we're still waiting for the tech stuff to get completely set up, but I thought we could start with how the whole project started. So, Robert, do you want to start with that?
Yeah. Okay, so how this project came about was a few years ago. Eric and I had an audition for a superhero movie. We didn't know each other then, but we both auditioned for the same role. Unfortunately, he got it. Just kidding.
I thought it was fortunate.
No, he got the role, but the director kept me on as fight choreographer for the film. And when me and Eric met to go to the film set, was in Yuma. It was a 6-hour drive from here to Yuma. So during that 6 hours, we did nothing but talk. And I never talk that much. He does. And so we were talking on the way to Yuma, got there, did our movie, and talked all the way back. And I told him when we got up to Tucson, hey, keep in touch. It's, write something, And I guess he thought I was just another actor saying, let's get together and do something. But I called him up and said, let's do it. And so we got together, put together about 40 ideas.
Yeah, about 40 different concepts that we were thinking about producing. And if I may, when Rob and I work together creatively, there's this thing that he does where suddenly he'll get this look on his face. It's sort of like this. And what that means is one of two things. It either means he's about to say something totally brilliant or that he has really bad gas. This time it was brilliant. And it was, hey, what if we do something like this? Huh?
I heard the brilliant gas just now.
You heard the brilliant gas just a minute ago. So, usually it's not simultaneous, but I guess it could happen. So essentially what we were attempting to accomplish was, originally it was about doing something to help further our own acting careers, but as we started working on it more and more creatively, we realized that we could create something that could become, if we did it right, a focal point through which we could help to promote the careers of other artists, promote nonprofits, and to, generally speaking, sort of gain attention for the Southern Arizona film industry, which we were sort of a part of. And so the idea got bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's when we brought on Marty and Clif to write for us, and they further developed the story. But that's kind of the gist of it. And are we pretty close? Okay, so we actually have a formal presentation to start in just a second here. That'll and the I'm not sure how much you said about the gist of the presentation.
I said that we were going to be doing a presentation and then taking questions later. So
great, yeah. And so the gist of the presentation that we're going to go through is we have around an hour here, and we're going to very, very quickly give some of the tips and tricks that we've learned and developed to make micro-budget independent film and make it look better than micro-budget independent film. And a lot of hard lessons learned along the way, as well as some innovations we came up with to make this show, which is 4 hours long, the equivalent of 2 feature films, and was produced on next to nothing by a very dedicated group of people, and has since received critical acclaim from about 17 different sources across the world, which is very nice. So we have 25,000 Facebook fans, and it's growing and growing and growing. People do seem to really like it, which we're very happy with because it almost killed us to make it. So, we will also in the presentation show you some little clips of the show and stuff as is appropriate. Are we ready to roll? Okay, ready to roll with the formal presentation. Let's rock and roll. So I think you pretty much already introduced us, and I sort of. Can we skip a couple of?
Yeah. Well, what do you want to go to first?
Let's go to. I think everybody's already been introduced, so let's move to.
do you want to start with the concept development?
Essentially, yeah. Let's start with. Let's go to the strategy. It is important to. If you are making any kind of film project, it is extremely important to begin with strategy. You need to know a lot of things. You need to really plan everything very, very well. If you're doing a large budget film, it's a good idea to plan so that you don't waste your multi-million-dollar budget. And if you're doing a small budget film, it's a good idea to plan so that you can actually complete the project. So there are a lot of elements that go into strategizing, and number one is, let's move to this one, knowing who your audience is. So we began this process by asking a question. This was before we actually came up with the concept. Who do we want to reach? What is the audience that we want to target the most? For us, it was an easy answer because we're geeks. We want to target science fiction, fantasy, superhero fans. We know that market well. But everything else that we did and that we do is colored by that question. Who are we making this show for? We don't want to go too outside of what we believe our target fan base will enjoy and what they will tolerate. As viewers and as part of that fan base ourselves, we have a pretty good idea of it. So everything else that we did was based on who the audience is and targeted towards that. So we're going to move on to plot, pool, plan. Let me pass it to Raul.
So, and this is just kind of a acronym or the 3 Ps: plot, pool, plan. So plot your story and define your characters. I know Marnie and Clif are going to talk a little bit about some of this and how to organize this, but this is really important to know what those characters are and to know them well and who they're going to be hitting and what kind of issues that you're wanting to deal with in the series to meet your audience and what they're expecting. Pull your resources and have or know how to get. We're on a micro budget, so we don't have just a ton of money to either create things or to go buy things that are already made. So we have to be creative. Everybody has weird resources around them, whether you have a friend that drives around in a hearse and you can somehow incorporate that because you have access to it, or a building that a friend of yours owns that is unique that you can shoot in. You want to try and grab all the resources that you have, and this is also in the pre-planning process with scripting, that you can work these things that are unique and would separate your project out as unique into the production. And then plan. Those things that you absolutely need to make your concept work, you want to figure out how to get them if you don't know how to get them already. And if there's things in your script and your story that you just are not going to be able to do on your budget, then it's best to do it at the beginning, strategize and write it out of the story. Figure out a way to get it out instead of trying to do something that you're just not capable of that's going to turn out poorly on the screen. This is you.
Okay, so this is, be very brief with this, but this is something particularly a lot of micro-budget filmmakers feel they can't think about. And to some degree, you may be right. It is very challenging to deal with legal issues when you don't have money for a lawyer. But it is important, at very least, to try to make sure you have some kind of contract in place with people you're working with on every level, to try to investigate what things you may have to deal with from a legal standpoint, try to avoid using other people's copywritten music. A lot of people get in trouble for that. Try to avoid naming your project the wrong thing, or using, essentially to try to become aware of generally how copyright and trademark law works. Very quick example, and then we'll move on. The original title for our show was Chronicles of Zhon, the Alien Interviews. And we were close to launch for the show, and out of the blue, Terrell found a website that had a comic book called Chronicles of Zhon. Huh? We could not have anticipated that anyone would have a name, anything remotely like that. So I happened to have a friend who's a trademark attorney who helped a little bit. And the long story short is we changed the name shortly before launch. So it is now Zhon, the Alien Interviews. But literally, even when you think that you've got something that's completely safe, triple check it. Another great example, we used a Rubik's Cube in the show. You would think that would be fine, but I just had a nagging feeling, and I double checked, and I ended up managing to get the rights to use a Rubik's Cube in the show without any issues from the company that manufactures it. Got to think about all this stuff and kind of know the territory, because if you don't, you can end up getting pulled later, and it can just stop your whole process. Let's move on.
So pre-production, begin with the end in mind. This is kind of the subheading. So we're going to start talking about the nuts and bolts of actually how to start your pre-production. And I'm going to hand it over to Marty and Cliff for writer's block. So they're going to talk a little bit about their writing process and how they went about writing the show.
Okay, so this was a different writing process for us because we didn't create the concept. We were given the concept and told, here's some kind of rules that you have to stick in within, you have to play within these boundaries. So we started basically with him first, started with his character first, and then we knew they wanted a love interest, so we started with those two characters, started developing them, and quickly became aware that we needed to figure out a way, if he's going to walk in and turn himself into the NSA, we've got to quickly figure out a way to bring her into the show and get the chemistry sort of going between them. So that was where we arrived at, well, she's a talk show host, or she's a reporter, some sort of interviewer. And then it's a comedy, so okay, let's make it a talk show host, kind of an Oprah or Ricky Lake or something like that. And then I think that was, from there we went into Agent Myers, right?
Somewhere around about that.
Yeah.
We also figured out a list of all the, this is unique to this program because it's the alien interviews. We had a list of all the interview questions.
Right.
And those questions are usually about something that Zhon had invented in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So we figured out which question per episode. And
Yeah.
that kind of gave us the outline for the whole series.
That's true, yeah. We quickly became aware that it might be comedic to, the blackened chicken. He's cooking chicken over the fire and it falls into the fire and he goes, well, I invented blackened chicken. Things like that. So we became to use that as sort of a comedic thing to a vehicle to move it forward. The characters quickly took kind of a life of their own. Once you put them into place and kind of figure out who they are, they start to kind of do what they do. You don't really, unless you have to sort of force something in, it's really not very hard to go, well, okay, he's this guy, he's doing this, and I know what his eventual end game is, so, I figured that out. The most important thing for your characters is to figure out where each one of them is going to end up at the very end.
Yeah, you have to know your beginning, middle, and end.
Right. If you don't know where he's going to be at the end, there's no way you're going to be able to get him from here to there. So once we figured that out, the characters quickly took on a life of their own. And one of the things I wanted to mention, which is wonderful, is to turn something. I've never turned something over that I've written. I've always filmed everything I've written. So to turn it back over to somebody and watch them go, this is great. I'm going to do this with this, and I'm going to do that with that. And I don't like this. I want to put that out of there. That was fun. It was exhilarating to watch somebody. It was like watching somebody sort of fanfic your material, which was a blast. That was a lot.
That's
of fun.
an awesome way of putting it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think that's about it.
Cool. Well, yeah, so these guys worked about 6 months, and we wrote the entire series before actually shooting anything, which is important to, I think, the next point, is it not?
Which?
What are we moving on to here?
Okay, so finishing the race. Who here watched Lost? Any fans? Okay. Who watched Breaking Bad? Anybody? Okay. There's a decisive difference between how both of those series ended. Breaking Bad, I just actually finished the series myself, but that you could tell. They had 5 seasons. They knew where they were going. They knew how they wanted to end it. They knew, probably I wouldn't be surprised if the writer actually had that last image of that series in his mind before he even started. Just like J.K. Rowling, you know, she had that last chapter of the book written before she even started the whole series. This is where I'm ending. Now how did I get there? Lost kind of went the opposite way and went a more studio route, where they started and they kept asking these questions, and it just was like, well, we don't know how many seasons we're going to be, so we're just going to keep asking questions, and then all of a sudden, this is the last season. We got to wrap all this stuff up really quick and try and answer these questions that we as writers don't even know how to answer because we just asked them and we're like, we'll figure it out later. So that's really frustrating, obviously, as especially sci-fi fans. We want some sort of a conclusion. We want to know that there was an end in mind and that there was going to be a completion and there's going to be emotional payoff by the end.
That's why we have letter writing campaigns, because people don't do that.
Yeah, that's why Veronica Mars is, got a movie, and why we have Serenity versus, 6 seasons of Firefly, is because of that reason. And that obviously was the studio canceling this show prematurely, but that's besides the point. So, how do you do this? The first is, how do you eat an elephant? You break it down. This is extremely important, and the basic concept here is, believe me, no elephants were harmed in the making of this picture. So,
well, there was that one. It's kind of an accident. Anyway, please go on.
So, breaking down your story, knowing what you're asking of the audience. Once we got the script, there was several weeks of me as the assistant director as well as the co-director going through and literally breaking down everything in the script, every prop, every
and crying.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, I called Clif and I was like, I can't do this. This is not possible. But we figured it out.
We hear that.
So breaking everything down by scene, by script, what's needed when, and then working out the schedule so that we knew when we asked our actors and our cast to come on this project, we were like, we are shooting from this time to this time. We're shooting it film style. The whole series will be in the can once we're done filming, and then we just have to worry about the post-production team with a few people that are able to operate on a little bit more variable of a schedule. But that all came down to being able to tell people when we were starting, when we were finishing, and knowing that we had enough time to get through that schedule.
Now, when you're talking about you have the whole series done, are you talking about season 1 or all 3?
On this one, all 3. Many series I've talked to creators of that they will shoot season by season. So they'll shoot a season, edit it, release it, and then go back and shoot another season. On this one, because we knew we were on a micro budget, we didn't know that we were going to be able to get our cast and crew back after long periods of break. We knew we wanted to complete the series so that when we released it to the public, regardless of where we were in post-production, we knew we had the whole thing done and we would be able to take you to an emotional completion with the series and the characters. Maybe not completely write out the potential for a sequel, but that you would feel like you had gotten the full story and that you were okay with where the characters were left at that point.
I'd like to add to that as an example. If you watch the show, a major location is the interrogation room. And the interrogation room we had for 3 months, and after we were done with it, it was going to be something completely different. So we weren't going to be able to go back there, and as an indie doing very micro-budget projects, that's often the case. You may think you're going to be able to go back somewhere, and then they remodel or whatever, because you can't shovel. They repaint like they did with the hallways in the NSD. So basically, if you're not shoveling lots of money at people to use their locations, there's no guarantee you'll ever get back there. So we try to just get it all done and move on to the next location.
And if I could interject, budget really affects writing. I mean, if you're working on a micro budget, you want to think you got to get tricky. You got to reuse your locations. You'll notice in that if you watch closely in that thing. Of course, the reason we came up with an interview room was we can put him in one room. All we have to do is put him in one room, and then we'll do a flashback scene every episode. That's it. We'll have to go to one location. That's it. Well, of course, it got a little more complicated, but you'll notice that the fireside scenes, they're all the same fire. You're just moving people around.
Right.
You know, so we have to kind of get tricky with what we're doing. Let's reuse this, let's reuse that, because we can reuse these locations. We know they're going to be there. They get it all done in a couple of days. So let's see if we can come up with some more ideas. And again, that keeps you from having to go out and shoot many locations, which affects your budget.
Significantly less expensive. Good point.
Yeah. Which actually brings us to the next point. Efficiency versus art. On micro budgets, this is definitely something that you have to contend with. And I know I talk to a lot of young writers and directors that get so frustrated because they cannot accomplish their grand vision, their Star Wars fanfic, episode, recreation with all the lightsaber battles and everything that they want. And this just comes down to what is your budget allowing, and how much creativity can you have. I honestly will tell you, I love having limitations because I think it stretches my creativity. I don't have money to throw at problems. I have to figure out a creative way to get around it, either in editing or in writing or in the shot placement. I can't show necessarily a monster straight on. I've got to show it in a more creative way. And we see that done even in the biggest budget films. Jaws was supposed to feature the shark a lot more, but as many of you might know, that shark was not operating right. The robot was not working. And so he ended up shooting it a lot less, and for that, it ended up creating a lot more drama, a lot more tension, a lot more horrific experience with the shark, because it was scary. You didn't know when it was going to be there and when it wasn't. You only saw it for a flash. You never got to see the whole thing. The Wampa monster as well. Yeah. So it's always just measuring the two of these. As the AD, also, I tended to start, as soon as something started taking too long, I was like, all right, get rid of the crane, bring the camera in here, just sit down and just shoot this lock-off shot. And thankfully, Alan Williams, our co-director, he was much more wanting to do the creative stuff because he was all in the directing role. I was kind of AD directing. And so we came up with a compromise. We said, okay, for every scene, we're going to try and get one really cool shot. We're going to have one really cool moment per scene, and then we'll take a ton of time to get that one shot right. And then the rest of it, we'll just do the coverage. We'll just get the stuff basic back and forth. But that really helped us make sure that we had the creativity, we had the art, we really pushed ourselves there, but then also that we were completing our days on time. Anything?
No.
Okay.
Let's skip on.
So I guess you had the whole pregnancy thing for extra sympathy, right? So we might actually believe one of your stories. Personally, I would have used a puppy.
It actually is a comedy, but
I really wish I was Rob actually in that scene. Sometimes. So that kind of actually gives an example of the efficiency versus art. As you can see, we really tried to steer away from, because of the post-production need to be able to have Rob disappear accurately, and even when you do, it's like, oh, that doesn't look quite right. That doesn't look like it is. So that was creative editing right there, as we just cut away, and within the editing, it rolls. Your brain fills in the blanks, and he just disappeared. And I don't really know how that happened. I don't know when exactly that happened. I didn't see how that happened, but it happened, and you can just keep going with the story. And you're not focused on the visual effect. This also was supposed to demonstrate, it's all fun and games until somebody quits. When you have a micro-budget film, you are not having the money to throw out a cast and crew to keep them motivated. You can't sit there and get into a court battle with Halle Berry for wanting to breach contract and want more money for something. So how do you keep them motivated? Filmmaking is extremely difficult. If many of you have tried short films, it gets tense on set. Emotions are running high, especially when you're getting to the end of a 14-hour day or something. A lot of this just comes down to expectations and breaking the thing down. How many pages are you actually trying to get through? Do you have time to allow the crew and the cast to decompress throughout the day? Make sure you have time for lunch. Feed your crew.
And if I may, the critical thing here, and what we tried very hard to do as producers, was to create an intentional set culture. very much like a corporate culture in a corporate environment where you try to create an environment where everybody behaves a certain way, and that is the norm. That's the milieu, so to speak. We created an extremely positive set environment, personally interviewed every single human being who walked on that set to make sure they were a good cultural fit, had the right motivations. And so if somebody was being a diva or throwing a hissy fit, they were kind of out of place on our set. People would come to our set and visit, and they'd go, wow, you've been working 16 hours and everybody's happy and motivated. How the hell did you do that? And the answer was we were very intentional in making a really good environment. And of course, feeding
And food, yes.
So yeah, let's move on to...
We beat them.
Yeah, we already kind of talked about scheduling, so we're going to go to financing.
I'm going to keep it super fast because we've got to move on to other things. But the long story short is financing is extremely complicated. And if you're working on a micro budget, one of the things, if you've never done a film before, you will probably try to go to people and ask them to invest in your film. Just be realistic about that. I've had people come to me with, hey, I'd like you to invest in my short film. Okay, how's it going to make money? What? Well, you said ask me to invest, not donate. So that's the conversation you're going to have. Unless you're going to friends and family and relatives, and that's a different story. There's Kickstarter. Many of you probably know about that. It's a tough road. We funded on credit cards. That's how we got this thing done. Still paying loans. So, anyway, there's lots more to say about that, but we really do have to move on.
Any legal way you can get the money, do it.
I'll add moral too. Don't be Bernie Madoff. Actually, I guess that wasn't legal. Anyway.
Well, you could be Walter White and just started Meth Lab, and
I do have to ask,
any legal way to get
would you really trust your money to a guy named Madoff? Come on, he's made off with their money? Anyway. I wasn't going to invest with that guy. All right, let's move on to... All right, so casting and working with actors.
The fun part.
Yes. So we had an extensive casting process, and it was quite a challenge. And Rob, you want to talk a little bit about how that worked and...
Well, pretty much from the beginning, we want, with the characters, we had in our own heads what we wanted the characters to be like, but you have that one actor or actress come in and just blow it away with, what they think the character should be. So we had to change up our idea on what we wanted other characters to be because of that. But just the casting process was pretty painful, in my opinion. We had a lot of people come in and audition, had them read for us. People who you would think that wouldn't fit something, like just came in and you were like, you know what, I think we can go with this person, somebody who, you get we put out a call, for a white female or something, then a Hispanic female comes in to audition for that part, and you're like, well, then maybe we can change it up, It seems like that. We had a lot of characters come in, and it was pretty fun. We had We had a theater guy came in and kept saying one phrase over and over that I'm not going to repeat, but it was just funny.
One thing I think is important, if I may, to state when working with casts, especially on micro budget, get the most professional actors you possibly can. You're not always going to be able to do that, but you do want. Our audition process was pretty grueling. We had people come in with a prepared monologue. We had them do a read from the script that they had 5 minutes to study as well, and then we asked them to change up their performance multiple times. You need to know that somebody is going to be flexible enough when the director gives them new direction, and that they can handle under stress, especially when you're doing a large project like this. A lot of people, the reason I'm saying this is a lot of people who are first getting into film are film people. They think camera, make good shots, and they don't think about the quality of performance. And when you do that, you can get the most beautiful shots in the world and terrible performance, and nobody cares. So make sure that you've really got quality people to the extent that you possibly can, and spend the time to work with them, rehearse, read scripts, and so on.
Just make sure that they are trained actors. What I mean by trained actors is they come in with a headshot and resume, and I kid you not, we had somebody come in with their resume written in crayon, and you just...
It was a sign. Not that we wouldn't give that person a chance, but it says this person may not be very professionally minded, so they may not really know how a set works. They may not know how to be an actor in a professional environment. So.
Well, and like attracts like. If you like these guys did, if you set up a professional environment, you're going to attract professional people. You're not, it becomes very obvious. Well, these guys aren't really kidding around, and I'm not really serious about this, and so in my opinion, Leica Trek's Leica in that matter.
Isn't the color of the crayon more of the factor?
It was orange.
Oh yeah, that's very nice.
It wasn't even Halloween.
It was on yellow paper.
Let's move on.
Okay, so one thing, this is really brief, but this is kind of a list and hierarchical structure of what a set might look like. On a micro budget, you probably will not be able to get all of these people. However, I tend to see a lot of independent filmmakers, and they don't take the time to build a good crew around them. They don't have enough people on set, and it ends up being one guy with the camera that's also holding the boom mic, and he looks like a one-man band. You can do that, but it's going to suffer. Like your product is going to suffer, and so just really try and break it down of who you can get by with. And who you really need, and consider all the positions, and really know what your reaction and your tax for getting through those positions and actually meeting those things that need to be done on set are.
In a fully funded film, this is actually a short list. There's a lot more that's typically used, but again, people and equipment should fit basically what you need to get done.
So even though you don't have a different person for every one of those boxes still needs to get done, and you have to figure out who's going to be doing the most. So
bingo. Organizational structure.
I'm figuring the two of you had the most hats.
It's hard to say. Terrell had many hats. Rob did. I did. Many of us played multiple roles, so to speak, making the show, but there were areas of responsibility and accountability and delegation, and that, like any good organizational structure, you know who the head of that department is, and you defer to them when need be, and and when you've got good people, they can do it, and where you've got somebody who, okay, the boom operator didn't show up today, so we need somebody, hey you, quick training session, and we'll watch you and make sure you're okay and back you up,
Thankfully, we were in a union show, and so we could actually move people into different roles, including I think we even had, when they were off or done for the day, some of the actors and actresses stuck around and would do boom for us or something like that in a pinch. We didn't plan for that, but that's the benefit of having a really solid and dedicated cast and crew.
That's important to say. Union projects very different, very specific roles that you can. That's a whole other conversation.
Okay, so here's a scene from the show, and then this is leading into our catering props and costumes.
Pancho, was that the necessary tequila? That was the last of it. I'm gonna have to kill you.
Alrighty. Costume props and catering, that's me. When we were just mentioning about wearing a variety of hats. I took care of catering for the entire production, made some of the props and some of the costumes. Really quick, when you cater a group of we ranged anywhere from 12 to 20?
12 to 30 something.
12 to 30 people.
Days,
The first thing, especially nowadays, is find out about the food allergies that you'll be catering for. Because I currently cater for a set that has a vegan, someone who will eat meat but not anything that has hooves, someone else who's allergic to tomatoes, and one that's allergic to milk. And this is all supposed to be catered without doing individual meals for everyone, because we're trying to make it as cost efficient as possible. So knowing the food allergies that you're dealing with and the budget you have to work with. One of the advantages to having your set catered is it keeps your actors and your crew on site. Because if you decide that you're going to have your lunch break and it's going to be a half-hour lunch break, and the food's there and everybody can eat, that's versus everyone driving off, searching for a place, waiting in line, driving back, maybe deciding, well, while I'm out at lunch, I will go pick up the dry cleaning and run errands. This helps to keep everybody on the set, which is where you want them. And if you feed them well, and when I catered these, you know, I did all the cooking. These fellows got to do a lot of the eating. It wasn't, you can make up some for the fact that the actors and everybody is at this level basically volunteering. If you're giving them more than like cheese pizza and warm soda, you know, I had like gourmet grilled sausages and sandwiches and pastas and a variety of foods that were not your typical late night drive-in type food. You really, by cooking and feeding the crew and the cast, makes them feel a little bit more cared for. It's one of the advantages of catering, is the fact that you can go, look what I made you, and then you show up with little cupcakes and cake and, you know, salad, the main course, and sides and soda and water, and, you know, makes them feel a little better, makes them feel a little more loved, that you're giving them more than, you know, semi-warm Domino's pizza.
From a producer standpoint, put some of your budget into catering. It's really important. It's, as
You're not going to be
point,
paying them, so you might as well feed them.
And even if you are, you know, if you're on a micro budget, you're not paying them a lot. And you know, we had 16-hour days in blazing sun or freezing cold. You've got to keep people happy, and food is a great way to do it. It's a wonderful thing when your director of photography, who doesn't talk much, is eating a sandwich after working 11 straight hours, and he's going, that was, you know, he's going to work hard the rest of the day.
And the price works out that what you would spend on a couple of large pizzas or a trip to Jack in the Box or something which you would think would be faster and possibly cheaper, the actual money that you spend on that versus the ingredients that you would spend on making the food actually works out where you spend less money on the ingredients. And I'm also a culinary, I am a pastry chef, so, you know, my skills were kind of, you know, dessert was always big. Let's see, props. You learn on a micro budget, you know, it'd be nice if you could go down to the prop warehouse or order something off of Amazon or one of the companies that create props, but having a micro budget, you really can't. So you learn to make things. Thrift stores are your friends because you can find the costuming. Let's see, it's not. Oh, let's see, the 70s look up there. We found all of that at the local thrift stores. Found, you know, with the big pointy collars and the extremely loud colors and bell bottoms and things like that we could modify. There's a scene where it's in a Renaissance period and found slacks, you know, and repurposed them by like cutting them off, putting the band on, making them blousy looking. So you learn to repurpose things. It doesn't always have to be something that's brand new from a costume shop. You can kind of look at something and like figure out how to repurpose it. And props. You know, just as a demonstration, for my costume for Comic-Con, I'm an ether cartographer for a steampunk idea. And it's like, okay, well, if I make maps, I need a map holder. And I could go down to the local art supply store and get a document holder that's like leather and very cool looking for more than I really need to spend. But what I've got here is basically a mailing tube, fabric that I picked up at a thrift store. They usually sell like fabric scraps, a lot of glue, and a repurposed handbag strap. And voila, map carrier. Ooh. That's unique and completely my own. So things like that, looking at a prop that you need and sort of reverse engineering it. Like, okay, if it needs to look like this, okay, it needs to be a box. Okay, I've got a box. Nobody needs to know that this used to be a stationary box that I spray painted and glued gewgaws on, but it's got, you know, it's working on a small budget, being creative and trying to, you know, look at things and repurposing a lot of objects.
Ginger, also
Yes.
Going back to the very beginning, I assume that having the entire script for the entire series before you're even starting shopping also was a really big help.
Yes, knowing what was going to be needed, like in the scenes where Zhon is eating in the kitchen of the secret base, knowing what food we needed to have on hand and things like that. For costuming, it gave lead time, so it's like, okay, we're doing a medieval flashback. All right, I've got like 2 weeks to find this because that's when it's scheduled to be shot. Or like the Chinese gear in the China flashback. We had these on hand. I think you had your own jacket that you wore. Diving into the closets of the cast and crew sometimes is very helpful, or their parents' closets. But yes, definitely knowing what was needed, gave us a chance to hunt these things down or create them.
There was a lot of food in this show too.
Yes.
I've never written a show with so much where people eat so much. There's so much like food fixation in the show. I don't know what
the
it was.
influence of George R.R. Martin on the industry.
Actually, it was the influence of Rob that eats a lot.
Yeah, that's true. I remember.
One other
some
thing,
weird stuff.
From a prop and costuming point of view, always have a first aid kit for props. This is things like a sewing kit, tape, contact glue, duct tape. There's the joke about duct tape's like the Force. It's dark on one side, light on the other, and holds the universe together. Yes. A multi-tool of some sort, one of those things that has pliers and a sharp pointy end. And believe it or not, chewing gum can be very useful in holding things together sometimes. I think that's it.
Okay, so let's move on to...
This is going to be scoring, so Peter's going to kind of talk about his process and scoring the film.
The music.
Well, first of all, it'd probably be important to point out that scoring actually happens after the picture's locked. I'm post-production, and I'm not really involved in any of the stuff that happens, which means I never got to eat any of the good food.
We'll fix that, Peter. No worries.
And they promised me a pool, and I didn't get. But it is helpful if you're a composer. Well, first of all, it's helpful to get a composer. I think the most important thing that a lot of people forget is that the audio and music portion of any production is a lot more important than people seem to realize. And it's the kind of thing that if you don't realize that, you will realize it when you're watching it. Because when you can't hear dialogue, that'll kill a movie. And if there's no music, I mean, unless it's more effective to not have music, that's also going to kind of ruin, a movie. Or if it's the wrong music, Lady Hawk, you really don't.
Really? All right, we'll talk later.
But if it's not if the music doesn't fit the action, that's going to be a problem. And I think with a lot of indies, they tend to not really think about that until the very last minute, and then they're in panic mode. We need music for this. And that's when you run into the copywriting issues because no, you can't just go on the internet and take, somebody else's score and throw it in to your film, because if your film does start to reach an audience, that person will find out. And even so-called royalty-free music, it's not really free, and there's legalities that you have to read the fine print. But anyway, once you've got a composer, the next thing is communicating what it is that you want the music to do, what it is that you're trying to convey. And it's very important that the director, or at least one person involved, really have a vision for what they want the movie to say. They don't necessarily have to communicate in musical terms, but they do have to be able to explain what it is that they're trying to get across. And it's a bad idea to assume that, I've run into this, oh, you're the composer, come up with something. I'm kind of a twisted person, if you give me a romance scene and you don't tell me that you want it to be romantic, I might turn it into a horror scene musically just because I'm that kind of person, you know?
Because you can.
So, I mean, I'm being facetious, but really you do want to get across. You don't want to just assume that your composer automatically knows what you're thinking. So you want to be able to communicate those things. And of course, other things, you know, come into play, budget and stuff like that. You know, you don't have to have a super expensive score. It doesn't have to be very complex necessarily, but it does have to fit. And it is something that you have to think about.
Show us the examples, or we're pretty tight on time?
Yeah, we'll just show the first is without the scene without music, and then we're going to show the next scene, which is the same scene but with Peter's score on it.
Just enough time. No sound? There's no sound at all?
I don't know.
You'll notice how that's just not effective without this.
I was thinking the same thing.
Weird, huh? Hey, that's, yeah.
Just wait till you see it with sound.
There was actual dialogue here.
No way.
Oh, this is the one where you're wigging out, isn't
Oh, he's wigging out now.
it? Yeah.
Like Peter. Yeah. That's weird because the previous ones did have the music.
Changed, so I don't know.
Well, the idea of this was supposed to be that you were going to see a little bit of a scene without music, but with dialogue and sound effects. And then the idea was to show how the music can underscore what's happening and either really show the audience what they're supposed to be feeling, or kind of just highlight what's going on. And this was a dream, sort of a dream fantasy sequence where Agent Killjoy starts just losing his mind and imagining throttling Zhon. And my goal, as soon as I saw the scene, I knew I was going to go for something very fantasy-like and a little twisted, which is right up my alley. And the idea being just to really underscore the madness that this was. I mean, it was being played for laughs in the sense that you as the audience are supposed to laugh at it, but what I was trying to achieve with the music is evoke a sense of this guy's, he's losing his mind, you know, he's not all there. And it did kind of work, but
You guys just can't hear it.
It was really great. Hopefully we'll have it online or something so you guys can see it.
One of my favorites.
Which episode is that?
I mean, we have the series online. That's season
That's
1, episode 6, I think.
6 or
Okay, you all
7.
got homework.
Is
You
it
can go
hot
home.
Is it hot in
This
here?
presentation online as well. Anyway, so we better move on.
Yeah,
to...
last one is Rob. So
Yes.
this should play.
Okay, I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah.
I don't remember it being that violent.
Well, so let there be no blood. So that fight in the scene is the last episode of the show. Putting together a fight scene for a show, it takes a lot of planning and having to know what needs to go where and why are they fighting. So pretty much when they put together a fight, I had to ask myself, okay, so what do my actors know? How can I work with my actors? Eric has a background in martial arts, and Terrell has a background in stage combat. And so use those as like, okay, well, let me put that together somehow, and let me put together a story with the fight. And so, for those of you that have seen the show, you'll know that in the show they don't like each other at all.
How would you even guess that?
How would you even guess that? And so, in this scene, I was like, okay, well, let me try and put this fight together where it looks like where Adrian Myers is just really just trying to get David out the way, trying to kill him. And so I did that, and I was talking to Terrell. I was like, okay, can you do this? What if we do this with your character? And I discussed with my actors, like, what can they do? And I was talking to Eric, what can you do? What do you want to do? And so I took their feedback and put together this fight here. Terrell actually, he came up with a couple of ideas for the fight where you see him jump up and grab the ceiling and kick Eric. That was all Terrell. And I didn't come up with that at all. I had a totally different idea, but that made it awesome. So also when I do fight choreography, I gotta make sure that my actors are safe. And if I feel that something's not gonna be safe, then I'm not gonna have them do it. And in this scene here, when we were fighting, or when they were fighting, the place we're fighting in was over maybe 100 degrees.
Yeah, it was about 105.
6-hour shoot.
It was really hot, and we kept, doing this shot over and over and over again, and my actors were just getting hot and, drained, dehydrated. So I had to make sure we stopped so this guy can drink water, so Terrell can drink water. I had to make sure that my actors are safe. But putting together a fight for a film is not as easy as some people would think. It looks easy on film when you see it, but just putting it together.
A fight that looks good on film.
Yeah. It looks good, yeah. It's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of dedication, and even if me as a fight choreographer, I get frustrated if something doesn't go right, or I see a move that I put together and it doesn't come out right. I get frustrated, which I probably shouldn't, but I do. But like it says in there will be no blood. I make sure there's no blood unless it's fake.
So I think that's our presentation.
Can we use that as an example of Peter's scoring? Because with the undertone, the fight itself is, a violent and brutal fight, but there's this sort of the strident tone of the music that Peter scored to it, which heightens the tension.
Except I actually have to say that was actually one of the only musical parts that I did not score. that was actually a guest artist, but it's okay because my other role, which I was not planned, but I wound up also becoming a kind of a music supervisor because we had guest music and I would need to choose the guest music. And I actually was going to score that scene, but we had the artist whose music that we had there, it just worked. And, since the composer is the last person usually to be brought into production, a lot of times you feel like everybody's waiting on you to, okay, get it done. So, they got 6 months, but that doesn't mean I get 6 months to film it, to do music. So in that case, I actually thought the music was so perfect for the scene that rather than, sit down and take another week to score the scene myself, I just edited that artist's music to fit in a way that I thought would work for the scene. So in a way, I kind of co-composed it.
We invited about 20 different independent musicians from across the country to add music to the show as part of our goal of promoting other artists. So we actually created a separate web page for each of them on our website, and we promote them through Facebook and so on. And poor Peter was given everything from industrial techno music to rap music to country music, and we said, "Here, fit this in the show." I was like,
"Yeah, a lot of country."
Plus the exit credits.
Yeah. We have about 3 minutes or so for questions. So
are there any questions from the audience? I know we've been throwing a lot of things at you. It's great to have professionals like this actually coming to Phoenix ComiCon to tell you about the craft and how it was made. Do you have questions for them about the project or what they did or how they did something in particular.
How much the aftercare costs.
In the back.
What was the hardest part, dealing with the cast or dealing with the time and money aspect?
What was the second part of the question?
The time and money aspect.
What was the
Time and
hardest
money.
part, dealing with the actors or with the time and money aspect of the movie?
Well, I'm not going to slam our actors. So. No, actually, I think it would be fairly safe to say that our actors were a pretty wonderful crew to work with, generally speaking, incredibly professional. So I think the time and money aspect, from my standpoint, anyway, was probably the hardest. I mean, we were all working on it. Huh? I mean, we were all. I mean, again, we made this thing on credit card. I'm not going to go into extreme detail, but. We had our wonderful one of our wonderful associate producers, Tina Huerta, did a budget for the show and told us how much the show was going to cost. We made it on about 5% of that budget. And that was all just, okay, how do we not spend this money and innovate something else? But that was very hard. It was very, very hard. So I think, if we had had more budget, obviously so many of our problems would have been solved, and we would have had to, we could have...
Was the most challenging.
It was very difficult. Yeah. There's a lot of footage.
I'll say one thing about the actors, and this wasn't an issue with their performance at all, but one of our actors was dyslexic, and so for the first week, she was constantly late because she misread her call time. Now that was that was not her fault. There's nothing that she could do to affect that. But that was something where I had to adjust constantly with the new people and the day players that we had come on the set. I had to quickly figure out how best to communicate. So for her, I would call her the night before the shoot every day, or the week before, and then call her the night before her shoot and verbally tell her what her call time was. That way I avoided her having to worry about reading it wrong or something like that.
Thank you.
I think it's important, I'll kind of chime in on something because it is relevant. I think it's very important, especially when you're dealing with indie films, because a lot of times you're working with friends, but you still do have to establish a certain amount of hierarchy and establish who does what. One of the early situations that I ran into when I started working with these guys is I actually replaced the original composer that was slated to do it because he had another project. And because I came in so last minute, there really wasn't a lot of, I think they had an idea of what they wanted, but there was still stuff that wasn't really clear. And when we were working on a theme, I was sending a piece of musical ideas to about 5 different people and getting 5 different responses back. And finally I had to say, look, you guys need to designate one person who's going to be the person that, filters everything down to me and tells me what you guys want, and then I can give it to that person, and then they can go argue amongst themselves. But you got to avoid the too many cooks in the kitchen kind of situation. And there was other situations that I won't get into where a similar thing happened, where a few too many people got involved in the process, and it just bogged it down and slowed it down. So in the end, it wound up just being Terrell and I. And it didn't mean that nobody else had a say, but we just kept it, as far as our working process, we just felt that Terrell, as one of the co-directors, was the ideal person to be the go-between between me and the production. So once we got that working, and once Terrell and I figured out, how, once we started developing an understanding of each other and our personalities and what each liked and didn't like, it was a lot easier and faster process. But that theme took almost 3 weeks. It actually took longer to do the 30-second intro theme than it did to score almost anything else in the production. And that was the reason why, because so many people were going back and forth.
Yeah, we're pretty much out of time. Do you have any closing thoughts or things that you want to definitely get out there?
I think, I guess
I just want to say I apologize for us starting late on the panel. I know for myself and probably Eric, we're going to be outside for a little bit. If you do have any other questions, we'd love to talk to you. We have contact information also if you want to try and contact us later by email or on our Facebook page, and we'll try and get answers if you have any specifics or even want to go through scenarios with us. We'd love to talk to you.
We are also screening as part of the film festival tomorrow. We're at the 12:30 to 3 p.m. block, and I'm not sure what episodes are going to show, but we are part of that as well. So we'll be around, and we have some little informational cards so that you can find the show easily if you'd like. And but we're very happy. Generally speaking, we do try to be a help to our fellow filmmakers. So if there's something that we've done that you'd like to know how it was done, just feel free to contact us. We're always happy
One
to
last
talk.
thought. You cannot underestimate the importance of pre-planning. Just plan as many details and for as many variations in your original plan as possible, because that will help you in the long run to know, okay, this is what we're going to do, but if something goes wrong, we've got plan B, and work it all the way down to plan W. Okay, that's good.
That's a great way. That's a great thing to finish this off with. Thank you very much for attending the panel.
You can clap.
And thank you very much for the cast and crew of Zhon.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you very much, Scott. Scott Leonard.
Now that you've heard the panel, head on over to whoiszhon.com and watch the entire series for free. That's whoiszhon.com. WHOISZHON. And we'll catch you next week.
GMR